Hello mga alamat! In this video, I decided to do something slightly different. Okay? Imbis na magcha-charts tayo, imbis na pag-uusapan natin ng particular na market or particular na stock, I decided we should make a tier list para sa mga paborito nating indicators. Now, a few caveats before we start. Unang-una, wala po tong re-record. I wanted to give you a live natural reaction, kumbaga, sa pag-rank ko ng mga indicator. So, you might find that I make a few more mistakes than usual in this video compared to my other videos. Number 2, yung mga indicator po na sinama ko dito, obviously, hindi po yan lahat. So, kapag wala po dito yung paborito nyong indicator, sana po hindi sumama yung loob nyo, no? I had to draw a line in the sand somewhere. And if I included every single indicator, obviously, hindi po tayo matatapos. Next, I randomize the order ng mga indicators sa baba para lang mas raw yung pag-react ko sa kanya. Kasi kapag in-arrange ko yan, usually meron tayong tendency to arrange it with a certain bias. And I wanted to make sure na yung pag-discuss natin dito, fresh na fresh, no? And then finally, yung sasabihin ko po sa video na to, obviously, is views ko lang. Maaaring hindi tayo nagtutugma, maaaring iba yung experience ko with one indicator over the other. And syempre, natural lang po yun. Iba talaga ang pagtingin nating lahat si charts, no? And that's fine. So, kapag hindi po tayo magkatugma ng views, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below kung bakit nyo tingin na mas maganda or mas pangit ang isang particular na indicator para sa inyo. Para po matuto rin yung mga viewers natin at yung mga nagbabasa ng comments. Okay? Now, all that being said, let's start. Now, magsisimula po tayo sa Williams percentage R. I don't know if you guys have used this. It's not a very popular indicator, but it's an indicator na inaral ko before. Now, in and of itself, para sa akin, medyo nandun siya sa not so great na area kapag ka in and of itself. But I found that this particular indicator works well with Ichimoku, lalo na kapag you're trying to latch on to an already existing na trend. I'll make a video of that in the future. So, because of that, dahil pwede siyang kakombo ng something else, it does lift it up a little bit. Okay? But, hindi naman lahat ng tao gumagamit ng Ichimoku eh. So, because of that, I think ang pinakamagandang pwesto rito is nandun pa rin siya sa not so great na area. Kasi, mahirap eh. If we're gonna judge something in conjunction with something else, mag-iiba yung rating ng lahat. Diba? But, it's important that we start off, sakto rin, with that kernel in mind na pwede nga may kakombo. Kasi, pwedeng nasa not so great tier yung indicator na gusto nyo or binabantayan ninyo, pero maaaring mas gumanda pala siya kapag may kakombo siyang iba. Yeah, which you know, it's a good idea for a future no, na tier list na parang combo list naman tayo. Okay? Next is the average directional index. Now, I know a lot of people like using tong ADI, but for me personally, from my back testing, I didn't find a particular edge in using it. It's not super bad, but hindi siya, kumbaga, yes, it could give you some type of conviction when you're working on a particular trade idea, but it tends to give out more false signals than it does yung real ones, for lack of a better term. So, because of all of that, I think etong ADI, at best, pwede ko lang siya ilagay dito sa average. Okay? Next is yung VWAP or volume weighted average price. Now, VWAP is nice. Okay? In fact, I wish that Investagrams had yung VWAP na available sa TradingView, no? Which is yung VWAP na pwede mong i-adjust based on a particular time frame. Kasi medyo useful siya eh. If you can adjust yung time frame ng VWAP, pwede mong gamitin kunyari yung daily or hourly VWAP sa 1 minute time frame. Kunwari lang I'm just throwing out random time frames. Then it's good kasi meron kang parang higher time frame na conviction or higher time frame na idea na sinasandalan na binababa mo ngayon sa ibang time frame, no? Sa lower time frame. So, para sa akin, good siya kapag sa ganong aspect. Pero kung kunwari, medyo fix ka lang sa isang particular time frame, it does lose a bit of its potency. Okay? So, given all of that, para sa akin, ang VWAP na indicator is nandito tayo sa good tier. Okay? Now, alam ko, sinadya ko rin na medyo naglagay na tayo ng konti bago ko in-explain yung mga tiers. Okay? I purposely did that para lang meron na kayong idea kung saan ko linalagay ang alin. Tapos ngayon, papaliwanag ko ano yung view ko sa bawat tier natin. Syempre, awesome. Yan yung parang S tier. Yung cream of the crop. Mga paborito ko talagang indicators. Yung mga, the ones that I feel give us or give me a particular edge in the market. Yung nagagamit ko consistently if and when I decide to use them. Those who watch my videos know that I don't use a lot of indicators in trading. Okay? But etong mga indicators na mapupunta sa tier na yan ay yung mga indicators na kapag ginagamit ko, I tend to put a bit more weight towards yung mga nababasa ko sa kanila. Now, yung good is just a little bit below awesome. They're great. I don't use them a lot, but I do use them occasionally. Meron silang purpose para sa akin. Okay? Pagdating natin sa average, usually mga ganito, na-try ko na before, they were okay, but I don't like using them in general. And the reason for that is, nagugulahan lang ako eh. It's not because they suck or anything. Yeah, maybe they suck for you, maybe they suck for me, but it's not because I hate it. It's just that, hindi ko sila nagagamit. Maybe, hindi ko nabibring out yung tamang potential nila or what have you, but I don't find a good use for them. Hindi siya nakakatulong gaano sa trading ko. And then finally, yung not so great tier, yung mga na-try ko na before, as I said, pwedeng kapag may kakombo siya, okay. Pero, in and of itself, hindi ko siya magamit. It doesn't really add anything at all to my trading. Hindi siya nakakatulong sa execution. It doesn't give what I believe is an edge. Okay? So, yun yung pag-tier ko dito. Next naman is yung envelopes, no? Now, envelopes actually, gusto ko siya isama na lang dapat do sa moving averages kasi essentially, yun din yun eh. But, I understand na yung envelopes, pwede mong i-adjust yung thickness niya. So, what it does is it does assist you sa paglagay ng tamang trail stop. So, for example, you only want to cut your losses if price has fallen, for example, 3% beneath yung moving average. Okay? Rather than doing the math, the envelopes can help you do that kasi pwede niyang i-adjust yung thickness to 3% nung whatever average you prefer. Okay, so from that aspect, okay siya. But the problem with it is hindi ko nakikita yung value gaano ng pag-widen or pag-tighten ng isang moving average. This is just for me, kasi para sa akin, hindi ko naman binibase yung stop loss ko sa kung saan nakalugar ang isang indicator. Diba? So because of all of that, hindi ganon kalaki yung value na nadadagdag nung ability ng pag-widen or pag-tighten nung band nung isang moving average. So because of all of that, this has to go dito sa average natin na tier. Next is Arun. Itong Arun, again, I know of a few people who use it. I don't know. For me personally, I just don't see a lot of value in it. It doesn't really help. I've tried comboing it, kumbaga, with other indicators and ewan ko, baka hindi lang ako magaling mag-combo, baka nataon lang, pero talagang it just doesn't work for me. You know, parang may mali parang may kulang. So, dahil doon parang I don't know. It feels so lacking para sa akin. Etong Arun. So dahil doon, ilalagay natin siya dito sa not so great natin na tier. Elders Force Index. Similar to Arun, ganun din. I understand what it's for. I get how to use it. But, wala eh. Talagang, wala siyang dating eh. Walang impact. You can use it, yes. Diba? Pwede mo siyang gamitin as a possible extra layer of confluence, pero para sa akin, it just adds confusion and doesn't really add a lot of conviction. So, again, dito siya sa not so great. Next, linear regression curve. Yung LRC, this was used by a group before. I don't think they use it anymore. But since nakasama siya sa mga listahan ng indicators sa Investograms, I decided to throw it in here as well, no? Now, para sa akin, VWAP is a better indicator. I understand na magkaiba sila. I get it. Malayo sila actually. But para sa utak ko kasi, yung pinapakita nila medyo similar. Diba? Again, I am not saying na pareho I'm just saying may similarity. And between the two, I would prefer to choose VWAP rather than put everything on my chart, no? So because of that, again, I don't see a lot of uses para dito sa linear regression curve. So, we will relegate it dito sa baba sa not so great na territory. Okay? Next is yung Keltner channels. Now, Keltner channels, if you don't know, ang itsura niyan, parang B-bands din, pero mas, for lack of a better term, mas janky ng konti. Okay? I've seen a lot of videos on the internet of people who swear by it. Pero, to be perfectly honest, when I backtested this, it didn't really yield a lot para sa akin. It was okay. I understand the system that's behind it. Pero, there are better, kunyari, Bollinger Bands could be said na mas better version ng Keltner channels. Don Chan could be said na better version ng Keltner channels. So, pero di ka naman sila mapag-lump together, no? All in one. Kasi nga, may differences eh. Diba? Kumbaga may enough distinct differences na hindi ko pwedeng sabihin na yung strategy para sa isa ay strategy na dapat para sa lahat. So, I think yung Keltner channels we need to relegate once again dito sa not so great tier natin. Now, medyo kinakabahan na ako ng konti kasi wala pang laman yung awesome tier natin, no? Tapos yung good tier natin, iisa pa lang. Medyo marami na ako nabawa sa listahan natin. So, medyo nag-aalala ako at this point of the video kung meron ba tayong mailalagay doon sa mga upper echelons natin. Now, next is pivot points. Pivot points, I know of a lot of good traders who use this. Okay? Sometimes, they use their own calculations to determine kung ano yung pivot points para sa kanila or they use a slightly different configuration. Now, obviously, hindi ko alam kung ano yung mga configurations or calculations na ginagamit nila. So, we're gonna stick to the default ones. Now, itong pivot points, it's actually okay. You find na more often than not, if and when price goes there, typically, nakakakita naman tayo ng some type of reaction. The problem lang with that, kaya hindi siya malalagay sa upper echelons natin is just because you find the reaction there, it doesn't necessarily mean na number one, it's a good area to trade from. And number two, na just because nag-shortcut ka, mag-yield siya ng mas magandang risk-reward. But it is good. It's not a crappy indicator. So because of that, ilalagay natin siya dito sa average tier natin. Okay? Now, next is yung Williams fractal. You guys know that I use Williams fractal. Okay? And I really like Williams fractal kasi yung shortcut na binibigay niya sa akin, useful. What does Williams fractal do? Number one, if you want to know more, the link to that video is in the description box below, no? But essentially, what it does is it identifies yung mga key points na swing high or swing low. Okay? So, I really like it as a shortcut. Diba? I don't lean on it to form potential trade ideas around, but I like it as a kind of quick way to gauge kung nalalapit na tayo sa high end or low end ng isang swing. So, because of that, it goes to the awesome na tier. Diba? Dahil ginagamit ko siya, isa siya sa mga paborito ko, dyan siya sa awesome. Now, I understand that you may use Williams fractal and say na, teka, wala naman tong naitutulong sa trading ko eh. And that the same can be said for each and every single indicator na pag-uusapan natin today. Diba? Remember, based lang to sa view ko. Okay, sa sarili kong pananaw, sa paggamit ko. Our experiences could be different, and that's okay. People often feel na dapat, hindi, may isang correct way na mag-trade. Dapat ganito, dapat ganyan. Para sa akin, hindi tama yun eh. Iba-iba ang pananaw natin sa market. So, dapat iba-iba rin yung pananaw natin sa kung ano yung kailangan nating mga tools or instruments para mag-trade. Now, next is the super trend indicator. Now, itong super trend indicator, I've actually backtested a few versions of this over the years. Okay? Kasi lalo na kapag pumunta kayo sa TradingView, you will see na yung super trend, ang dami niyang klaseng iba-iba. I'm not gonna include the screenshot here, but if you go, tas type nyo lang super trend, may kita nyo ang daming customized na super trends. Now, iba-iba yung results na nakikita ko based on yung mga customized na super trends. Some are better than others. But dahil yung available sa Instagrams is yung quote-unquote default lang, yun yung gagamitin nating basis, no? Since alam ko, karamihan sa inyo trade using Instagrams. Now, kung kunwari gagamitin nyo yung mga customized na versions sa TradingView, I think yung ranking nitong super trend will be somewhere between good and average. Lalo na kapag ka-trending na nga yung isang stock, no? But because we're using the default version, I'm a little bit torn. It should be somewhere between average and not so great, but wala naman, di ko naman pwede ilagay doon, no? Trinay ko, hindi kaya, ayaw niya talaga eh. So, I think the best place for this is sa average. Okay? Next is parabolic SAR. Now, ito, I know and I see a lot of people using tong parabolic SAR. So, for what I'm about to do, I'm sorry. Pero para sa akin, it's just not all that useful. Yes, it puts a dot beneath your chart na, okay, sige, meron tayong parang some sign of reversal, but I don't know, have you guys really backtested this? Kasi when I did, it didn't really yield great results. Parang, kumbaga, masyadong 50-50. Diba? Parang, kunwari sabihin natin, sige, 53% of the time, it yields positive results, 47% of the time, it doesn't. Pwedeng mag-iba yun eh. Pwedeng maging 50-50 yun or worse. Given another 30 datasets, given another 50 datasets. Diba? Parang, so because of that, walang clear edge para sa akin. This really has to go to the not so great territory. I am sorry, parabolic SAR. I am sorry, parabolic SAR users. No? Next is RSI. Now, RSI, I use it to spot yung mga strong divergences. Now again, if you don't know what a strong divergence is, I've included a link to that video in the description box below, no? Isa siya sa mga teachings ni Spyfrat. So, I don't use it to spot normal divergences. Para sa akin kasi mga normal na divergences parang common occurrence lang yan eh. Yung mga strong divergences, mas rare siyang mangyari. And because it's easier to make that delineation sa RSI, mas gusto ko siyang gamitin over, say, sa mga stochastics or what have you. Now, the other use that people do or people use RSI for is for mga oversold, overbought. I don't really do that. Tapos yung mga RSI above 50, I mean, I get the logic behind it, but it's not something that influences my trades, no? So I'm ranking tong RSI purely based on how I use it and as a way to spot strong divergences. Obviously, it's very, very good. So again, because of that, I do need to rank tong RSI as an awesome tier para sa akin just because of the way I use it. Now, you may have a different experience. Lahat tayo may iba-ibang setting, lahat tayo may iba-ibang pamamaraan for using it. But para sa akin, justified yung paglagay ko sa kanya sa awesome tier. Kasi marami akong mga interesting trade ideas that I can form just by using yung strong divergence na nakikita ko sa RSI. Next is tong ultimate oscillator. Now, tong ultimate oscillator, again, it sounds powerful, no? Kasi nga ultimate, di ba? Nung bata ako, paborito ko sa Ultimate Warrior kapag may laban siya. Paulit-ulit kong pinapanood to sa TV nun eh. Lalo na dati, di ba? Wala pang streaming. So, I would go to yung rentahan ng VHS, ganon. Tapos, uupahin ko yung mga pay-per-view na wrestling matches. Favorite ko si Ultimate Warrior. Pero, yung Ultimate Oscillator, again, I've tested this, again, just because, ang ganda ng pangalan eh. Pero, it didn't really yield great things for me. You know? The backtesting proved, at best, inconclusive. So, for me, despite the name being ultimate, it needs to go dito sa not so great na tier. Sorry, Ultimate Oscillator. Next is yung stochastics, no? Now, itong stochastics, it's a popular alternative to RSI. In fact, I know some people like using them in conjunction. And I get why people like using yung stochastic stance because of yung parang smoothed out nature nung itsura nung indicator itself or nung oscillator itself. But, I don't know. I've just never liked it. I don't know why. Hindi ko alam kung dahil lang ayoko yung itsura niya overall. It reminds me too much of yung parang mga nakikita nating machine sa ospital. I don't know, but I've never really personally liked it. So, while, it's a little bit harsh to judge something from a personal standpoint, yung tier list, very personal din yan eh. So, I'm gonna have to judge stochastics based on my personal likes and dislikes. And because of that, it has to go dito sa not so great na territory. Again, I know some people use stochastics successfully. I am just not one of those people, and I just never really liked it. I don't know why. I just don't. Okay? Next is yung CCI or yung Commodity Channel Index. Now, prior to using RSI, I was actually using CCI for a little bit, no? It was okay. I prefer using RSI over it. To be perfectly honest, yung mga RSI, stochastic, CCI, and so on, medyo similar naman yung pinapakita nila eh. Kumbaga, what it represents isn't all that different from one another. Now, we can argue until the pigs turn blue na, hindi ba dapat ganito yan? Ito yung pinapakita niya and so on. Yes, I get all of that. But what I mean is yung the general information that it gives me as a technical trader is more or less the same. The way that I read it, the way that I assess things, the way that I check and use it is more or less pretty similar. Okay? Now, I do like it a fair bit better than stochastics. Kaya nga mas ginamit ko siya bago ako nag-RSI eh. So because of that, this will go to the average tier. Now, next is yung Bollinger Bands. I realized na nagturo ako ng SPY bands or nung settings ni SPY frat sa mga Bollinger Bands, which is yung manipis, no? Pero sa totoo lang, yung setting ni SPY frat, it's a lot more similar to a moving average than a Bollinger Band na eh. Yes, it gives a little bit more information based on yung pag-broaden or pag-tighten ng bands. But, essentially, it's still more or less a moving average. So, we are gonna judge Bollinger Bands based on how the creator wanted us to use it. Now, as I said, I like this a fair bit better than yung Keltner. I feel like yung nature niya na mas smooth siya ng konti makes it easier to read and understand. And there are various strategies na pwedeng ma-form simply by using different settings of Bollinger Bands, one on top of one another. Okay, so because of that, I do like it quite a fair bit. But it doesn't push it para sa akin to the awesome na tier eh. There's a reason kung bakit di ko ginagamit yung Bollinger Bands mag-trade yung from day to day. Diba? Yes, sometimes sinisilip-silip ko siya, but as a general rule, I don't really use it. I don't form my personal trade ideas from it. Okay, so I can't in good conscience put it dun sa awesome tier, but it's actually, to be perfectly honest, somewhere between good and average. This is harder than I thought. Mas challenge pa ako gumawa ng tier list kaysa nang mag-chart, no? I actually think that this goes to yung average tier. Okay? If I could, I would put it in the middle, but I can't. So it goes to the average tier. It's okay. You can, kumbaga, I wouldn't mind using it occasionally, but it's not something that's gonna be a mainstay sa mga charts ko. Okay? Next is yung Chaikin Money Flow. Now, nung nagsisimula pa lang ako mag-trade, tinuro din sa akin to as one indicator to potentially use, no? But upon backtesting, it didn't really do much. O sige, fine, nakikita ko yung flow. Number one, I have no real idea how accurate that is. And number two, how exactly do I use that to trade? Yes, pwede mo sabihin na, kapag tumataas yung flows, ganito, ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. Sure. But, it doesn't help with the execution. All it does is it adds another indicator to my chart. And ako lagi, ang goal ko is to minimize yung indicators na nasa chart ko. Diba? I've minimized it to the point na zero na, but, kasi the more things that are on your chart na hindi naman ganun ka-helpful, the harder it is for you to make a real decision, lalo na kapag crunch time na. So again, because of that, this needs to go to the not so great tier. Now, ATR. Average true range can be used in a variety of ways. You can use it to help calculate your stop. You can use it to assess ano yung range na ginalaw ng isang stock or ng isang market on a particular time, no, or on a particular day. I use ATR when I trade, lalo na sa Forex. It's important to me to assess yung range na pinaglalaroan ng price. Now, I want to just put this sa awesome tier, but the thing is, I'm a little bit torn. Nasa gitna kasi siya ng awesome and good eh. I could still trade without it, but it's a very helpful tool para sa akin to have it there. So, I do think that ATR still deserves to go to the awesome tier, but now that it's there, napapadalawang isip ako doon sa Williams Fractal kung dapat ba talaga nandun. Kasi ganun din eh, medyo hati din siya. Yes, I like it, I use it, it's on my charts, you guys see it. This is harder than I thought. Akala ko, medyo dramatic lang yung mga content creators kapag naggagawa sila ng tiers, but it really is harder than I thought it would be. Parang, once you add more things into your tier, it makes it harder to assess other stuff. Ano ba yan? Anyways, Don Chan Channel. So again, Don Chan Channel, medyo similar siya sa mga Bollinger Bands, Keltner. And this is an easy put dito sa average. As I said kanina, it is better than Keltner. Slightly inferior to Bollinger Bands for me. Okay? The general use is more or less the same. The type of strategies that you devise around them is more or less the same. But I do find from backtesting that it is a little bit better than Keltner. So it goes to the average tier. Next is yung moving averages. Again, pinagsama-sama ko na rito lahat. SMA, EMA, pati yung SPY bands nandito sa moving averages. Na, ang moving averages, sa totoo lang, it's a very good tool. Okay, the problem with it is yung over-reliance minsan ng mga tao sa mga moving averages. Kasi, minsan ilalagay natin yung stop natin beneath a moving average without understanding or without taking into account yung overall structure ng chart. It's easy to fall into the trap na, okay, dahil may MA50 dito, price must hold. Kung hindi nag-hold, kakat ako. Pero how often have you seen na price goes beneath MA50, then after 2 or 3 candles, aangatan niya ulit? Diba? Now, kung kunwari ginawa kong MA55 yon, we would have held perfectly. So, dapat ba MA55 na yung bagong standard? I don't know. Diba? Yun yung problem. That's what keeps it from being in the awesome tier para sa akin. So, I think yung best location niya is dito sa good tier. I see a lot of good uses that people get out of yung moving averages. It's just that meron siyang mga drawdowns or mga negatives na ayaw ko. That's a big deal para sa akin that keeps it from just being right there sa taas dun sa awesome tier natin. Next is Ichimoku Kinko Hayo. Now, if we're gonna be perfectly honest, yung Ichimoku Kinko Hayo, para nang naman siyang moving average na may sariling calculations. Okay? I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that, and I get it, I'm sorry. Pero if we're being perfectly honest, yun din naman yun eh. Diba? Yes, meron tayong Kumu Cloud that's very helpful, and I do like it a fair bit more than moving averages simply because of yung objective nature nung paglatag niya ng mga moving averages within the larger indicator itself, diba? Yung Kijun-sen, Tenkan-sen, and what have you. So, very clear-cut yung rules, very clear-cut yung hinahanap natin. I like all of that. But, again, nandito na naman ako sa between awesome and good. But I think para sa akin, it falls more doon sa good na territory. Okay? Ichimoku Kinko Hayo has this flaw. Actually, pareho lang naman sa mga moving average eh. Kapag ka nag-range tayo, medyo nababawasan yung effectiveness niya. Diba? So, since stocks are ranging or the market is ranging roughly 70% of the time, I don't really want to use an indicator na may ganong limitation na parang 70% of the time, yung effectiveness niya mas limited. Now, we can argue na marami namang stocks, marami namang market, so may mahanap ka. All of that is true. I get it. Okay? I get all of that. But we do need to consider yung limitations niya. At least I do, while putting it in the tier. Kasi kung kunwari hindi ko i-consider yung limitations, a lot of these will be moving higher up the list. And syempre, di naman natin pwede lagay lahat sa awesome, di ba? Boring naman yun. Okay. Almost done. Next is yung MACD. Now, itong MACD, it's a favorite of traders everywhere simply because sa simula pa lang ang dali niyang gamitin. Crossover lang ang hinahanap eh. Di ba? But once again, have you all really tested yung MACD crossover? How many times na false signals yung binibigay niya? How many times na parang nadja-jumble kayo doon sa spaghetti na pag-angat baba ng dalawang lines? Because I have, and the results aren't all that great. Yes, it's good. Kapag kunwari trending na, tapos let's say nag-trend, nag-pull back, tapos you want to get in, you can get in dun sa pag-crossover niya. Kaya some people use it na kailangan MACD has to be above 0. Kasi they want to make sure na meron ng quote-unquote trend na nag-exist. But oversimplifying what a trend is or where you get in sa loob ng trend does have its drawbacks. Diba? Meron siyang pwede kang mapahamak because of it. Now, another usage for MACD, and I use this din, is for mga divergences, no? Nowadays, I prefer RSI, pero MACD sa paghanap ng divergence, okay din. Maganda din siya. I think ang hirap naman ito. I think para sa akin yung best location niya is dito sa average. There are some arguments to be made kung dagdagan mo ng ganito, hindi ba pwede siyang mapush sa good? Again, this is hard. Yeah, I think yung best na location niya is dito sa average kasi it can act as a crutch para sa atin, and there are times na imbis na makatulong siya, mas nakakasama pa. So I think yung pinakamaganda niyang location for now is dito sa average. Yeah, maybe I can think up of something against that argument a few days, a few weeks from now, but I'm pretty sure na tama yung placement ko. Dito muna siya sa average tier. And then finally, yung relative volatility index. No? The only reason kung bakit ko to sinama is there was one time that Senior Spyfrat was actually studying tong RVI. So out of curiosity, binacktest ko rin siya. I didn't really get very far. I think I only backtested it mga 20-30 times, and I don't know kung ano yung naging resulta nito kay Senior Spyfrat, but personally, hindi ko siya gano'n nagustuhan. I think hindi rin niya gano'n nagustuhan kasi eventually, he dropped it. So, for me, in my backtesting, again, between this and RSI, there wasn't really a lot of difference. There was no need to have both on your chart. It didn't really give a lot of clear direction. It didn't really give a lot of added conviction. So because of all of that, dito siya sa not so great tier natin. Okay? So guys, I hope na gustuhan nyo tong tier list video natin, no? And if so, if you found itong change of pace interesting, let me know in the comment section, kasi kung mahilig kayo sa ganito, then we can make more of it. Marami pa tayong mga indicators sa pwedeng pag-usapan, marami tayong trading system sa pwedeng pag-usapan, and ano-ano pa, no? Now, if you want to learn more nung paggamit ko nung strong divergences, aside from being in the description box below, the video should be somewhere in the lower left-hand side of your screen right now. So be sure to click on that, check it out. Baka may mapulot kayo kakaiba ng konti on how you trade divergences, no? And as always, guys, good luck on your trades. GT, over and out.